Okay, this is awesome. This is why the internet is brilliant and also really dangerous. Sitting in the car waiting to pick my kid up from swimming, just been messing around with my smartphone. Bought myself a guitar. Should be here in 2 days. Let's see, I'm psyched. And 2 days later, this was standing at my front door. So, welcome to the Guitar Beasts episode on baritone guitars. This, I believe, is the cheapest baritone electric guitar which money can buy. As you just saw, I ordered this on the internet on a whim, just using my smartphone. And that is one of the great things about the internet. One of the dangerous things, of course. There's no barrier to entry. You don't have to actually get on the bus and go down the guitar store. You don't have to do any of that stuff. You just click, 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 and the thing turns up at your door. So let's have a look at this. Perhaps, like me, you don't know much about baritone guitars, and if you are in the market for the entry-level guitars, then that's probably quite likely that you have never really played one. I have once experienced a baritone. Somebody once brought a Fender baritone into the studio and had a little play around on it. It was quite fun. As I recall, it had a really beautiful deep tone, and so that was obviously the fun part about it, was having this guitar that's essentially sits halfway between a normal electric guitar and a bass guitar. So let's see, there's very little packaging. I mean, this is the box that it actually shipped in, with very little protection between the guitar and the outside world. So let's hope. Not bad. It comes with a little gig bag, and for all intents and purposes, the company that I ordered this from is called Gear4Music. Let's see, strap, cable. I mean, amazing what you can get for next to no money. They sent 2 straps. Well. And the absolute minimum of packaging. So, let's see where this leaves us. Now, I looked around a bit on the internet for baritone guitars. I am recording an album, and I had been looking for something that was going to give me a little bit more low-end beef in the recordings. So, obviously, Thomann, everybody's heard of Thomann. Their brand Harley Benton recently brought out an offset baritone guitar around the €200 mark, which I'm still quite fond of. It has P90s in it, and I like the idea of P90s. So if the pickups on this guitar don't really turn me on, then maybe I'll swap them out for P90s. But so that's 199, and I was considering that quite strongly, but then I just missed the first run, and then the next run was for delivery in something like 8 weeks. I think next up from that is the Sub-Zero, then come the Fender Squire, the classic Vibe baritones around the €400 mark, and then upwards of that you're looking at the decent quality, obviously actual Fender baritone. A few years back, I think Squire brought out a Bass 6, I think it was called, baritone guitar, which was only available for a very short run, and consequently became a cult classic, very much sought after. So this is it. Quite a nice offset shape we have here. Rather nice tobacco sunburst effect here. Dual humbucker, selector switch, 3-way, volume, tone. Now, as I say, I'm not an expert on baritone guitars, but then who is? It's a kind of novelty instrument that you might want for specific functions in a mix in a certain band setting. I know they're quite popular with the metal scene, Now let me see. One of the things I read on the website of the Gear4Music was that the tuning that's recommended for this guitar is E to E, which is not what baritones are usually tuned to, and it kind of made me think, you know, maybe they strung it up and thought, no, it doesn't really do the job of a baritone. So I'm just going to tune it to standard baritone, which is essentially, it starts a perfect fourth below the standard tuning on an electric guitar or on a normal guitar. So it starts on a B, and then it goes E, A, D. Instead of G, it's F sharp, because of obviously it has the same intervals between strings as a guitar, you know, so 5th fret, 5th fret, 5th fret, 4th fret, 5th fret. Just going to tune it up. So you may have realized during that tuning session that was quite difficult to tune up this guitar. The action on it has become really quite unusable. The neck is bent up like a banana. I guess that's what you can expect when you go for the cheapest guitar on the market. Or not, maybe, I don't know. But let's see how it goes. We've got 2 pickups here, humbucker pickups. They don't sound too bad, actually. The pickup's quite nice. I'm going through my WEM Dominator, which is 1970s valve amp, but it has a 15-inch cone, which should be able to handle the lower frequencies here. So yeah, let's see what it sounds like with a little bit of distortion. I mean, at the moment the action is horrible, so this is absolute pig to play. It's got a standard 4-bolt bolt-on neck. The neck is rather chunky. It's not really the kind of neck that I like to play. It has a satin finish on the back, which is also not necessarily my favorite. And you've got the nice Gear4Music logo on the top here. I have done a little bit of looking around on the internet, and this is supposed to be a Seattle, I think is the model name of the guitar. And looking around, it looks a lot like some of the Firefly guitars, which appear to be popping up around the internet. And so Firefly is a brand that you hear of from time to time that sort of drops in small quantities here and there, and people pounce on them because they're super cheap. It's quite possible that the original equipment manufacturer has somewhere along the line offloaded a bunch of these to Gear4Music as the distributor, and they've slapped their logo on for the privilege, and it's essentially in the same line. In itself, it's quite a nice little guitar. I think it's going to need a really good setup before I can actually demonstrate any musical abilities on this guitar, because at the moment, after tuning it, the action has gone all over the place, which may well have something to do with the note on the website that it should only be played in an E to E tuning. Who knows? We'll have a listen. I'll have a little tweak of the controls on this and then see where we're at, and then maybe we can have another listen, another little playthrough. So welcome to the second half of this video. We are now a couple of weeks later after the unboxing, which was the first half of this video. I've had a little bit of time to research this guitar, get used to it, understand its idiosyncrasies, etc. And the first thing that is important to note is that this guitar was delivered with very, very deep, bassy, fat strings on it. So this is part of the problem I was having trying to tune it up to a standard B baritone tuning, is that it was delivered with strings ranging from 24 thickness in the high end to 84 in the bottom end, and that is extremely fat. You're pretty much entering bass guitar territory with that kind of thickness, which I suppose explains the caveat on the company's website saying it should be tuned in an E to E tuning, which obviously I discovered was true, surprisingly. So if we just listen to it. So we're very much in bass tone territory there. So okay, and as you can hear from that little example, that brings us on to the second point, which is very noticeable about this guitar. The pickups are very metallic sounding. They're very tinny, trebly, also pretty microphonic. If you put on some pretty heavy distortion, you're going to get feedback very quickly. And this, that is using the neck pickup, so that should be the bassier of the two tones. If we flick to the bridge pickup, it's not a bad sound. Could be nicer. I do believe that this kind of very trebly sounding pickups are probably quite reactive and responsive for metal, and I think baritone guitars are quite popular in metal. Otherwise, a baritone guitar is quite a niche instrument. Brings me on to the next point. Essentially, I was looking for not such a bass guitar-y instrument, but something a bit more in what I understand to be baritone, which is sitting nicely between the tenor and the bass ranges. So the tenor is what I imagine to be a normal 6-string guitar, and the bass, obviously, the bass guitar. So I've bought a set of Ernie Ball's Slinky Baritone, and as you'll see, these range from 13 on the top end thickness to 72 in the bass, which is quite a significantly lighter set of strings. If you imagine, this guitar was delivered with a 24 size string for the top E, and that is already thicker than the first 2 strings on this baritone set. So I'm going to quickly string the guitar up with this set of strings, and we're going to see how it sounds with that, and see if it's more in the kind of territory that I was hoping for. So this is a good opportunity to take a look at a very nice little stringing technique that was shown to me one time. Essentially, you don't want to have too many winds of the string around this barrel here. So you put the string through the tuning peg, you take one very tight wind around the top of the tuning peg, like this, and then you take it, hold it down underneath where this wire is going to come around as you turn the tuner, so that on the other side it locks itself as it turns around. And then you have essentially one wind around the top of the tuner and another underneath where the string comes through the tuner, and the whole thing is then locked together by itself, and the string will naturally get pushed up and hold this in place, so you won't get any slip on that. and then one can just tighten it up. So you need to basically, when you do that first turn, you want to leave not too much loose string, especially with the fatter strings, because they take up, they quickly take up more space on the tuning peg. And there you have it. And then just pull that up straight up the top. And there you already have a nice couple of winds just locking it in place there. The next thing to notice about this guitar, it has essentially a hardtail bridge. As you can see, it's not a through body string assembly. The strings go through these little holes and come up over the little bridge pieces here. So essentially what I'm having to do is put a little bend in the string and feed it through that first hole, and then as it comes up the middle I have to just sort of turn it, push it up through the hole here, and that way I can get it up through the bridge piece. It's a little bit fiddly, sort of a bit like a cross between a Strat and a Tele, this bridge piece here. Not really standard, but I'm sure it does the job. Okay, so now we have the guitar strung up with standard baritone strings. I'm using Ernie Balls. I should mention that I'm not in any way sponsored by Ernie Ball, but I am more than happy to endorse their strings. Over my entire career I've always come back to Ernie Ball strings as my preferred sound, preferred feel for playing. That's just a personal preference thing. So let's see where we're at now. Take off the tuner. Well, I have to say, I infinitely prefer the sound of the guitar now. Suddenly it makes sense. It's exactly what I was expecting from a baritone. The pickups, for me, work much better with this tonal range. They don't sound so sloppy and metallic sounding. They actually have a bit more depth, a bit more warmth, a bit more tone, both in the bridge and the neck position. I think I'm going to have a lot of fun with this guitar now. Good. The neck has held position much better than when I tried to tune up the very thick strings to a baritone B tuning. So suddenly, after my initial very disappointed first impression, I am actually quite pleased with this purchase. Now, I made a comment earlier in the video about the possibility that this might be from the same range as the Firefly guitars. I have absolutely zero evidence to base that on, aside from the fact that Firefly seem to have brought out an offset style baritone guitar also in the entry-level price range. Also with a selector switch here, but instead of this sort of Strat style three-way, it's more of a toggle switch. However, the Firefly baritones that have been coming out come with a reverse headstock, which is quite a nice touch. But anyway, for essentially peanuts in guitar terms, this is very much worth having, I think. I'm going to certainly test it out on some of the tracks that I was looking for a more heavy guitar sound. for recording. That's going to be fun, and we're going to see what these pickups can do. Might just stick them through a bit of distortion just quickly. Well, very much what I was hoping for. So not too flappy when you play the open strings. So the strings have a good tension, they have a good throaty feel, and yeah, that's going to fill up a nice little tonal box in the recording. So I'm going to have some fun with this.